Okay, and hello and welcome to Fashion Exposed.
Hi.
Okay, so you discussed the idea of slow fashion today, and this is sort of a reaction to fast fashion that's really swept the globe. What can you say about slow fashion? Really, what is it now that it's moved on?
I think, it basically came to the fore as an economy-driven brief or an economy-driven movement, because when everybody in the 80s and the 90s and then last decade, when people had a lot more money and then a lot of brands and global explosion, fast fashion was born from the need of consumer spending habits. Well, when things have been slowed down and there's been a global financial crisis and people have held on to their money and to stop buying, retailers, particularly in the fashion industry, were left a bit caught out because there's nothing wrong with their product or their stock, but they just weren't selling. So then the pressure was on of marking things down and you get into that vicious circle. So I think the brief came up as to, well, what does that mean to people's spending habits and generally our lives? We're cocooning more at home, people not necessarily traveling as much, holiday destinations are sort of suffering, global cities that are sort of like big retail based, and everyone was sort of like feeling the effects. So the movement of slow fashion really has become so important to our generation and what's going on in this decade that brands and consumers and retailers are having to sort of react to that. And I think as a movement, it's something which is going to become more and more important and spoken about in the years to come.
And what were some of the examples of slow fashion that you saw recently at Bread and Butter trade show?
Well, it's interesting, there's a section at Bread and Butter and it's a hall that really has a lot of what we call authentic brands. And some of these brands, they're American, they're European, they've been around since the turn of the last century, and they've been producing like a beautiful raincoat or a beautiful duffel coat or a pea coat or a beautiful boots or fantastic hats and Stetson, and there's kind of like a lot of examples that those brands have become back in fashion because they're timeless. So you've got buyers wanting things they're not going to date. You've got these brands that are reinventing themselves or looking right again, and I thought that was a really interesting, if you see a really cool trade fair that's showing really cool fashion, at the same time having this hall and exhibition that's really about heritage, authentic brands. Denim, casual, women's wear, men's wear, accessories.
And how can retailers sort of integrate that slow fashion concept into their stores?
I think the ones that have got the business model that have window changes every 2 weeks and deliveries every week, they're going to struggle because their budgets and their whole business plan is based around delivering every week and getting sales. But if you're a smaller boutique and you're trying to entice a customer that's not necessarily coming shopping every day, in the city, or you do something a bit more unique, you can create a feeling that it's something that's going to be timeless, it's something that's going to last.
Definitely. You also kicked off the seminar discussing everyday people and how that terminology refers to the way you track trends at Scout. Can you sort of explain that a bit more?
Well, we just felt, again, it's sort of a little bit sort of along the same lines of what we just spoke about. We need to be real. For today's changing consumer, you have to talk to your consumer in a very personalised way. So by having something which is very authentic, very real, it needs to be about your customer. So the why we did the presentation Everyday People was to say, okay, these are the trends that are going on, X, Y, Z. These are the colours, these are the stars, these are the shapes. But how does that mean? How do you design that? And we wrap the trend around a personality. So with each trend we said, okay, this is the guy or this is the girl. This is his name, this is his lifestyle, this is the life and career that this person's doing. This is where they're shopping, this is the music and the bands are listening to, these are their friends. And then that trend becomes real to that person. And if that brand or that person is not right for your brand because it just doesn't appeal to you or it's not the demographic, then okay, it's not the right trend for you. But we just wanted to create it in a more of a real environment. We had a fantastic reaction overseas purely to that characterization and personalization of the trend. So it's an interesting approach.
This is something that, you obviously travel quite extensively around the world to see all of these trends happening and to bring them back to Australia, but you do a lot in Australia as well. What sort of areas do you scout locally?
from a point of view of retail, or
Yeah.
from, well, you know, there's some fantastic stores, and they are unique. They're one-offs. I mean, some of the areas that I think we focus a lot from a retail point of view, Surrey Hills, we talked about in that presentation. It's got some fantastic boutiques, individual. It's not high street. It's not the same as everywhere else. I think it's the same in Fitzroy, in Melbourne. And you know, we're always hunting out. I was in Scandinavia, and I was chatting to a girl. I had my shopping guide of Copenhagen, and this girl, she said to me, "Oh, don't go there. That's where all the high street. Go to this really cool little area. It's, you know, near the docklands." Unfortunately, I didn't have time to go and visit. But that's the thing. It's that insider's knowledge that these one-off designers are something cool that's really exciting.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.